I've been waiting for James Gunn's Superman movie to come out for what seems like forever. I did my best to temper my expectations and go in blind, having not been spoiled by anything other than what was in the teaser and the main trailer. To say I was excited last night as I took my seat in that IMAX theater would be an understatement. But I was also nervous. I couldn't help but think, what if I've overhyped myself for this thing? Or what if I don't like it? And after the Snyder Cult has basically made it impossible to express excitement in pretty much any internet commentary space about this movie, not to mention maggots losing their shit over the polarizing fact that Superman is an immigrant.
In effect, you illegally entered a country.
I feel like this wasn't just another summer comic book popcorn movie, but a social statement. Or to paraphrase some critics, a rejection of cynicism and insincerity. But when it was finally time to start watching this long-awaited and very much hyped up movie, how did I feel? Well, I won't lie, there was a short amount of time where I was sitting there retracing the footsteps of the trailers and the 5-minute preview scene with Superman's robots that I felt a little cheated. Not because the things I was saying on screen were bad, but because those things had been spoiled, even if they had new meaning in this new context. And not in a, oh, they ruined the whole movie by showing these things, but more of a, I wish I could have seen these things for the first time in this context. But I guess that's my fault because I watched the trailers because I was too excited. But once we got past the introduction and Superman flew back into action, I was pretty much sold on this interpretation. It was moving at breakneck speed, and I was struggling a bit to catch every bit of dialogue from the characters, but I was enjoying myself. From beginning to end, I had a big cheesy grin on my face. And a few months ago, I said that's basically all I needed from a new Superman movie, which was pretty much the last solo video I dropped on the channel because I've been incredibly busy illustrating and writing a 6-page preview and pitch package for a comic book series. I wanted to walk out of the theater with a big cheesy smile on my face, and that's exactly what I got. Okay, but you might be wondering what my more nuanced thoughts are. Is this the best Superman movie ever made? How does it compare to Superman the movie, Man of Steel, and perhaps more importantly, My Adventures with Superman and Superman the Animated Series? And the answer to those questions, at least without going into heavy spoilers, are complicated. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to talk about more generic tonal stuff, the world building, the characters in generic terms so as not to spoil anything, and my overall thoughts in this video. And then I'm going to make a separate video where I get more specific about the things that I like and didn't like, and how this compares to previous Superman adaptations. So yeah, non-spoiler review starts now. Is this the greatest Superman movie of all time? I think in terms of live-action adaptations, it's safe to say that this is the most comic book Superman has ever been, meaning that the whole movie feels like James Gunn took a comic book from the early 80s or even the late 90s and dropped us into the middle of it like we've been here for like 20 issues already or something. I say 80s or 90s because while the tone feels inspired by a mixture of the Justice League animated series, Superman the Animated Series, and even My Adventures with Superman, it also feels like it throws in a dash of Silver Age and Bronze Age wackiness too. Similar, in fact, to the way that Grant Morrison would incorporate off-the-wall super science elements into All-Star Superman in a way that could easily feel hokey in the wrong hands. As I was watching the film, I could imagine characters in any number of Superman's comics saying somewhat tongue-in-cheek or even downright corny lines, and I honestly loved that. I've always been a fan of the weird way that comic books deal with their world building. Like, we understand that Superman and Batman don't live in our reality. Even normal humans appear to be a bit more durable than people in real life are. It's kind of like that cartoon logic, and that's totally okay, so long as the story establishes that this is the case. This earnest and somewhat surreal approach to bringing a comic book to life on film isn't new either. There's a bit of that in The Mask, and even the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
I love being a turtle!
As gritty as it is, it still manages to merge the humor of the '87 cartoon series with the grim tone of the original black and white comics by Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman. What results is almost a living cartoon, and that's incredibly compelling and worth exploring in my opinion. When I said in my last solo video that the age of grounded superhero films is over, I meant it. Not that grounded superhero films won't still happen or have their place, but that the obsession of making every single superhero as gritty as the darkest Batman or Punisher comics would be over. Honestly, if this movie does well, and it seems like it's going to crush the box office, as the majority of people seem to have an excellent time with this, and I'm planning to go back and see it again soon, then I fully expect that to be a reality. Because this is a good movie. I had a fucking blast with it. It felt like a mixture of all the things I love about Superman rolled into a single movie. And this might sound a bit weird, but it almost felt like this could have easily fit as a prequel to All-Star Superman. Like these were Superman's younger years or something in that continuity. But the movie's not perfect. I do feel like some scenes could have been allowed to breathe longer, and while all of the jokes landed for me personally, I could have done without some of the comedic moments undercutting the drama in a few scenes. While I enjoyed all of the characters on display, even Steve Lombard and Cat Grant, I felt like we could have gotten more time with them. I also couldn't help but compare this Jimmy Olsen with the My Adventures with Superman version, as that's basically become my favorite version of the character. If you haven't watched the show, Jimmy and Clark are college best friends, and their relationship is f***ing great. I basically thought that they should have gone with that version of the character instead of what amounts to a version of Jimmy from Superman the Animated Series, where he's cool in a dorky way, I guess, but also, we're gonna have to talk about this version of the character more because my wife and I had thoughts about his portrayal, but that probably needs to wait for the spoiler discussion. And seriously, Perry White needed more screen time. But more on that later, too. Lois Lane, though, oh man, I wanted to see more of her, but she felt like they somehow managed to capture the sass of Superman the Animated Series' Lois with a bit of Margot Kidder and maybe some Jessica Jones energy thrown in there for good measure. I loved the performance, and I can't wait to see more of this Lois. But we're going to get into the weeds on that portrayal in my spoiler video. Don't worry. But what about Clark and Big Blue himself? Well, how do I put this? The little bit that we see of Clark's disguise is great. I would have liked to see more of that in this film and how he handles big journalistic things as Clark. I loved David Corenswet's chemistry with Rachel Brosnahan, and I simultaneously wanted to see more of them in the film. But Superman. David Corenswet's Superman is everything that I could have hoped for and more. He is all things heroic, humble, emotional, passionate, and also super corny. And that last bit might sound like a criticism, but it's not. While Christopher Reeve's portrayal exuded effortless confidence and his one-liners come off more like Clark is having a bit of fun being a dork because he can, this Superman feels like he really is just a big lovable nerd at his core. Reeve's Superman will always be the standard. He's the best, hands down.
It's all right, nothing to get worried about.
But this Superman is pretty close, and stands out as one of the only adaptations to feature the more zany and wacky elements of his mythos, if you don't count Richard Pryor and, Nuclear Man. One thing about this Superman stood out to me that I think is going to be really popular with younger kids and boys in particular. I saw someone put it best on Reddit, of all places, that David really brings this boyish energy to the character that will more than likely end up being his stamp on the character. And I totally agree with that. He's a Superman that is emotional and still has a lot of room to grow. I really like that. He makes a lot of mistakes, at least he says he does. But he always gets back up and does his best to do the right thing. And that's Superman. The Justice Gang was great. Mr. Terrific stole the show a bit. And Metamorpho was awesome and my wife's favorite character. The Kents were also heartwarming in that Midwest salt of the earth type of way, but not in the way that they've been portrayed before. They definitely feel like they're from Kansas, I'll say that much. And finally, let's talk about Krypto. Without spoiling anything regarding the dog, I loved Krypto. I've never been the biggest Krypto the Superdog fan, but this movie may have changed my mind about this. The dog is hilarious, and while I would have liked to see more of an arc between Superman and Krypto's relationship as super dog sitter and best boy, I'm not complaining and look forward to seeing more of him in future films. And Lex, well, This is probably the most comic accurate Lex we've ever gotten, right down to his singular obsession of he just hates Superman because he's an alien and he wants him gone because he undermines everything that Lex thinks he stands for and that humanity stands for. He's both the evil businessman from STAS and the John Byrne run, as well as pretty much all of the 90s and early 2000s, and the mad scientist who messes around with crazy shit like pocket universes and whatnot. He felt like a commentary on Elon Musk and every other dipshit billionaire on the planet in the best way. Though my favorite Lex will always be Clancy Brown's version from STAS and Justice League Unlimited.
You get what you pay for, Luthor. Are you saying you want more money?
Lastly, I want to comment on the score, or the soundtrack. I wanted to hear more of the John Williams music, honestly. I felt like they could have easily pushed that theme harder or used more of it to really hammer home the feeling that Superman is back. I don't know, it felt like James Gunn was holding back a bit on that front, but maybe he's saving a bit for the next Superman film. Overall, I had a great fucking time with this. I laughed at damn near every joke, teared up in the emotional moments, found myself squeezing my wife's hand a little too hard when Superman was against the ropes, and I walked out of the theater with a big cheesy grin on my face. Overall, I'm very, very satisfied. That isn't to say there aren't flaws, as we just discussed. It's not a perfect film, and I hesitate to say it's better than Superman the movie. Like, I can easily see comic fans gobbling this up and saying it's their favorite Superman film, but casual moviegoers might not be so quick to say that just yet. It's different, though. It's a damn good time, and you should go see it and tell me what you thought of it in the comments down below. That's all for the non-spoiler review. I'm going to go back to the theater, like right now, to watch the thing again and take notes. And the next video is going to not only be a spoiler review, but we'll get into some speculation about where the world building is going and what we might be able to expect in Supergirl and Superman 2, the search for more real estate. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you do all the things that keep the eldritch beast that is the YouTube algorithm going, and grab my Lovecraftian short story In Its Shadow on Amazon for free while you're at it. Like I said, I'm working on a comic book series, sort of like Akira meets Dragon Ball kind of deal. I've got a ton of lore for the series done already, and we're developing a tabletop RPG right alongside it. So be on the lookout for trailers, lore videos, and more coming in the near future. I'm Eric Malachite, and we'll see you later, Space Cowboy.